All right, we are going to be working on titles today, and I'm going to have you put titles as your title on this page or your next available page. We have two little foldables that we're going to use. We're going to use this half sheet that we're going to cut out, just kind of trim up, glue all the way on the back, and then this third of a sheet that I'm going to trim up and glue on the next available page. So I'm going to do this bigger chart first. This says function, type an example across the top. I'm just going to trim it up so it fits a little bit better on the page and then glue the whole back side down. Then the same thing with the next page. Both of these I'm going to have to glue in vertically so that they fit on the page. And then we're going to put words that aren't, I spelled that wrong, AREN''T, capitalized. And just trim up the little sheet, and then I'm going to glue it vertically also. Guess I probably couldn't fit it horizontally, but that's okay. All right, now let's look at the bigger chart here that we first glued in. So when we're looking at titles of books, of movies, of magazines, newspapers, songs, albums, there's a couple different levels per se of the method of titling something properly. So think about, we'll go to capitalized first. The first and last word always need to be capitalized, just like we talked about in the capitalization notes, and all the important words in a title. You actually have this chart here that's going to tell you the non-important words that are not capitalized, and you also have this little note, see hard and fast rules for using capitalization in your notes, which we did the first day of this unit. So you can always revisit that if you need to. But here are a few examples. This is a song, Look Into My Eyes. Into is a preposition, and that's the only word that's not capitalized. Eyes and look are the first and last, and my is a pronoun, possessive pronoun. So all pronouns, even though they're smaller words, are always capitalized. We have a day in Greece. We have the long and winding road. So and is another little word in the middle that is not capitalized in a title unless it's the first or the last. All right, so here is where I was kind of talking about the degrees. I want you to think about bigger publications of things and then different pieces of publications that are within these bigger pieces. So I want you to think about a book and chapter titles, okay? Books have chapter titles. Now, these chapters within these books could be actually referred to on their own without being necessarily recognized as part of this specific book. Magazines have articles in them. Albums have songs. Movies. Sometimes if you're looking at a movie on Netflix or Hulu, you can skip to the different chapter titles of the movie, or even a TV show has different episodes inside of it. So there's bigger publications, and then there's parts of those bigger publications that are smaller. So the parts of the titles of these bigger publications are what we underline. So we're going to add a few more to this. I'm going to put comma here, and I'm going to do plays, comma, musicals, comma, and albums. So titles of books, magazines, newspapers, movies, plays, musicals, and albums are usually underlined. And I'm going to say usually because if you're typing out something, or a title of these, you put it in italics. And normally it should be in italics, but the reason why you know to underline these titles more so than put them in italics is because a lot of the times you're writing it out with your hand and a pencil or a pen, and you can't distinguish a difference between italics and your normal handwriting. So italics, if you're typing something on a Google Doc, it's that slanted I that makes all of your text slanted. So it's kind of hard to write like that. So that's why when we write it out, we underline it, but you may see it as italics if it's typed out also. Okay, so here are a few examples, and I'm going to underline them because I'm writing them. The New Yorker magazine, The Jungle Book, the story or a book, and then drama is a book also. Okay, so we're going to underline them there. Now, these smaller parts of these big publications here. So books have chapter titles, magazines have articles, newspapers have articles, movies have chapter titles, plays have different scenes, musicals have different scenes or acts, and then albums have songs. So all of these have smaller parts to them. The smaller parts we always put in quotation marks. So titles of short stories, which can be compiled together into a book, articles in a magazine or newspaper, songs in an album, book chapters in a book, and most poems, because those are oftentimes published in a book, smaller or a smaller part of a book. Punctuation that follows a title usually goes inside the quotation mark. So if there is a bit of punctuation, like a period or an exclamation point in your title originally, when you're writing it out, you have to put that quotation mark or the punctuation mark inside the quotation mark, in between the last letter and the quotation. Okay, so here are a few. The Raven is the name of a poem. Probably read that when you're in high school. The Green Boy is a short story. And then here's a song. Here comes the sun. So we put those in quotations. Okay, go ahead and pause this right now if you need to finish these. And then I'm just going to briefly touch on this other foldable that we did here. So words that should not be capitalized in a title. We talked about this the other day, but I wanted to give you just a visual or a list of these two. Articles, remember, are a, an, and the. We looked at those in our adjectives unit. Coordinate conjunctions, I want you to write fanboys. Awubis words can also sometimes not be capitalized, but think about 4 letters or less. So now this one says 5 letters or less, but I've seen 4 letters or less also. So I guess that's kind of one of the Oxford comma type rules. And that's why a lot of people don't consider awubis as, or your subordinate conjunction as words you don't, but I still would. And then prepositions, even though these are sometimes 5 letters or more, we're still going to not capitalize them just because they're those minor, not necessarily super important words. Okay? All right, so you have an assignment. Your assignment today is this reading and viewing sheet. And what you're going to do is you're going to rewrite the titles that are listed on the left-hand side, on the lines on the right. Make sure that you're either underlining them or putting them in quotations. And you're also capitalizing the words that need to be capitalized. Then, down in this section here, you're going to underline the titles in each of the sentences. So you're just going to underline them, or if you want to circle them in the sentences, you can do that also. And then that is it. No review work or draft book at the bottom. This will be due next time in class.